Chapter 10. In the greater world, fighting erupted in the Middle East, with all-out war along the Lebanon-Israeli border. Iranian forces captured Kuwait and headed toward Riyadh after the U.S. fleet fought its way, with heavy casualties, through the Straits of Hormuz. Their 3 aircraft carriers and their accompanying flotilla now floated in the Indian Ocean. Europe seethed, and England had declared martial law. There were no other governments able to help. Every government in Europe was under siege. Britain rushed its forces home from everywhere. NATO finally abandoned the perpetual mission in Ukraine. The American Navy found a purpose, supporting the evacuation of American personnel from fragmenting nations. The Indian subcontinent erupted in turmoil. Pakistan lacked a functioning central government. In India, the upper classes desperately tried to put down riots by the poor, and no news came from China. Sharon received one item of importance. Greece and Turkey had renewed their war. The Greek military dictatorship, in place since the national bankruptcy a few years before, wanted the population to hate someone other than their government. The Turkish dictator had a complex problem involving religious fundamentalists, ambitious military officers and Armenian and Kurdish separatists. War seemed an excellent diversion. It all focused on Cyprus. The Shadleys feared the worst. Sharon's brother PJ last called home from Nicosia. He should have left long before, but no one knew. He told his father they had escaped the Lebanon/Israel border under fire before fighting destroyed the United Nations outposts. Contrary to official reports, PJ had told his father there had been at least one nuclear explosion in southern Lebanon. In Canada, the government collapsed. People demanded protection from eviction and asked for help. The Prime Minister made reassuring statements but did nothing. Opposition parties denounced the Prime Minister. They demanded the government inject money into the economy, but no one had a detailed plan. Prime Minister Harriden's government claimed they had no money and introduced a bill defaulting federal debt and raising the pension age to 70, cutting off those already receiving payments. Bank deposit insurance increased to $250,000 although most people had long since withdrawn all their money. Only the wealthy had savings, making it obvious whom the government cared about. However, no payments were possible. The motion failed when half of the government members revolted. Pay deposits and paper checks became impossible. The government had no way of paying its employees or anyone else. To keep some of the civil servants working, the Canadian Mint stepped up the printing of physical money. Special military flights began delivering the banknotes to Ottawa from the printing plant in Winnipeg. Armed guards took cash to every government building and dispensed it directly to the civil servants including members of Parliament. No one had seen cashed payroll in Canada for 50 years. Within a week, it caused price inflation in the Ottawa area, made worse by shortages of food and fuel. Printing money had little impact outside the capital, and remote government offices closed. With the government's defeat on their money bill, and under immense pressure from opposition MPs who had formed a coalition, the Governor-General asked the head of the next largest party to form a government. The patched-up government lasted 2 weeks. Before the end of November, the new cabinet announced Harriden had been right. They had no money since the bond sale failure in October. It became impossible to conduct any business in the House of Commons. Fistfights forced the Speaker to empty the chamber. The new Prime Minister resigned. The Governor-General made a fatal mistake. Harriden had appointed the man because he was a famous hockey and television personality. The head of state represented the most recent of a long line of media darling appointees. He saw himself as part of the country's marketing machine, not having a critical political role. This unqualified individual did not understand what his decrees might mean. He dissolved Parliament and called an election. With transportation and communication systems in chaos, Elections Canada could not conduct a vote and had no legal means to apply alternatives. The country entered a political vacuum. In the absence of Parliament, the weak government in Ottawa could only sit and fume. Self-serving opportunists would soon exploit the situation. In the years before the crisis, all media had fired most real journalists and filled time by treating comments on social media as news. Serious, funny, stupid, silly, but especially viral comments on Quiver and UU Mag sites, blaming everyone from the Russians to aliens for the problem, received endless attention on television. The public demanded the government do whatever it took to fix the economy, and get pro hockey going again. The producers jumped onto the National Hockey League bandwagon, ever mindful of the push for more viewers. It did not occur to media executives that things had changed forever. Higher ratings had no potential for paying sponsors. The government remained the only possible advertiser, and even they could only issue EIS. With the media dependent on the government, the pieces of a dark puzzle began falling into place. The shenanigans in Ottawa were of little concern to the people of Weyburn. Federal and provincial governments had done nothing to help. Most people were 2 months behind with no possibility of ever paying their mortgages. Foreclosure and eviction were the big worries, but the breakdown in infrastructure helped debtors much more than government action. The collapse of the airlines substantially disrupted mail delivery. Government-owned, cash-starved passenger rail service could not help. The large central mail sorting factories shut down, and for a few weeks, the mail trucks stopped running into the hinterland, preventing delivery of payment demands, foreclosure notices, and other flotsam of the financial system. "Hey Ted, the government's here to help." The police chief appeared in Ted Johnson's doorway. "They have a bunch of vehicles up by the Legion. Let's go look." Ted grabbed his hat and warm jacket. This mid-November cold snap was a break from the strangely warm autumn. The two men rounded the corner, approaching the Legion. A long line of identical, black SUVs stretched behind a large, black coach. The smaller vehicles had radio antennae protruding from their roofs and pulled enclosed trailers, painted black. The top of the coach supported a satellite dish and GPS dome. A small crowd of locals stood on the opposite side of the street from several strangers wearing scarlet insulated jackets over light blue jumpsuits. A large maple leaf decorated the jacket backs, and a shining white cross cut through the leaf. "They don't look like any official government bunch," Ted commented as they neared the vehicles. Shortwave radio chatter filled the air. Ted caught the words, "Rendezvous at Whiskey 1, 1100 hours. Who's in charge here?" Ted used his authoritative voice. "Who wants to know?" A large man stepped forward. "I'm Ted Johnson, Mayor of Weyburn, and this is Police Chief Thomas." The chief tried to look menacing. "It's nice meeting you, brother." The man offered his hand but no name. "We are on our way to the place God has prepared. We're waiting for more of the brethren before we head on out." Ted remembered that a group the locals called Religious Wacko Survivalists had built a compound on the Grey County line. They had tried, with some success, to recruit locals into their group. Most of their message advocated building a bomb shelter to make it through the coming nuclear war. Roger Smith had done some site preparation, building a driveway and leveling about 5 acres on the gravel moraine, and sold them a few dozen truckloads of sand. After that, the group brought in equipment and completed the rest of the work on its own. The county issued a permit for a large house and outbuildings, but locals guessed they had built a lot more without permits. Truckloads of reinforcing steel and ready-mix cement had gone in. Bush hid the site. Nothing was visible from the road except a wind turbine. 5 years later, most locals had forgotten about the place. "You have quite a convoy?" Ted surveyed the vehicles. The doors and the trailers bore the Leaf logo with the 4 sections created by the cross-bearing symbols for shelter, food, faith, and security. "How many are you?" the police chief asked. "Enough." The man obviously did not want to reveal too much, however, he seemed to enjoy the attention. The chief noted the visitors had empty pistol holsters on their waists. Through the open door of an SUV, he could see a gun rack holding a large-bore shotgun. "You have a lot of vehicles here. I guess you have lots of food." Ted was eating less and never felt satisfied. "Not just food," the stranger suddenly became more forthcoming. "Here, look." He unlocked a trailer. Food, fuel, and a motor generator filled the vehicle. The police chief noticed cases bearing the logo of a firearms manufacturer. Hello, brothers," a middle-aged man descended from the motor coach. "I see Brother Mason has been entertaining you." The man directed a stern look at Mason. He hurriedly locked up the trailer and scuttled away. The newcomer wore a cream-colored, meticulously tailored jumpsuit. The cross and shield logo adorned his left breast. A well-trimmed beard partly concealed his face. Long, slightly graying, straight hair hung down, curling at his shoulders. Ted stared and barely suppressed a laugh. The leader mimicked the picture of Jesus adorning Al Wright's sanctuary. "Welcome to Wabun." Ted used his effusive, tourist board voice. "We won't be staying." The leader offered the comment absently as if it were not important. "We'll be back in a year to help any survivors." "What do you mean?" the chief asked. "Things aren't that bad. I see only one result of this financial disaster." The man projected his message across the street to the gathering crowd. "In a few days or weeks, there'll be a nuclear war. It's in the scriptures. We've been preparing. The time has come for the glory of God to manifest on the earth and smite the sinners. The righteous will rule the land. Aren't you supposed to be raptured or something before the apocalypse?" Ted attended church as part of his political efforts and had heard some end-time preaching. He was more familiar with the watered-down version in the United Church Catechism. The Holy Book says the righteous will emerge to rule the earth. After 1,000 years, the Father will take us to glory. The preacher patted his hip. A Christian Bible bound in red leather protruded from a holster. "We have a shelter, so that the righteous will survive. We will emerge to claim our ordained place. Christ himself will descend to take command. We'll follow and obey." A column of vehicles rounded the corner and stopped behind the convoy, interrupting the sermon. Ted counted 40 vehicle-trailer combinations. Many carried young couples and children. The preacher hurried off to greet the new arrivals. With no fanfare, the column roared off out of town, up Highway 10 at exactly 11 in the morning. "Do you think there'll be a war?" The chief looked concerned. "There's nothing to suggest that on television." Ted looked skyward. "But there sure is a lot of fighting going on. Who knows? It might happen, but if it does, even those guys will die." The pair walked back to the town hall in cheerless silence. In the following weeks, local congregations saw their numbers swell. Church attendance had been growing from the beginning of the crisis. The prediction of the end times cast a pall of fear over many people. Some residents arranged their basements into bomb shelters.